Hey everyone, I'm your host, Emily Lauren. Welcome to the Body Positive Podcast, where we ditch diets, normalize real bodies, and help you feel better in your own skin. Welcome everyone to the Body Positive Podcast show. Today I am speaking with Mandie Brice, who is a model, makeup artist, teacher, and all-around creative entrepreneur who also happens to be currently pregnant. She is here with us to talk about how pregnancy affects your body image, both the good and the bad. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you're coming up on your due date right now. Is this your first pregnancy?
This is, yeah, and I have 4 weeks to go if the baby comes right on time, which apparently is only like 5% of babies, so we'll see.
Well, that is so exciting, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I am a mom to two little kids. I've got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I know that not every pregnancy can be the same. So how has your pregnancy been?
I don't think I have really any room to complain. Mine has been really smooth. I had no morning sickness. I didn't really have cravings or aversions. I'm still working out and moving around and pretty smooth for the most part. Starting to get a little harder to get comfortable, like sleeping and sitting on the couch, and it's hard to breathe sometimes. But if that's my biggest complaint, I think I'm going pretty smoothly.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that. My second pregnancy was very similar to that, but my first was one of those hard ones. I had like severe cystic acne. I was sick all the time. I had food aversions and all that fun stuff. So I didn't really enjoy being pregnant, but a lot of women do, and that's great. So are you enjoying your pregnancy? How are you feeling about your body right now being pregnant?
I would say overall I'm enjoying it. I definitely look forward to the baby being born now that, like I said, I'm getting less comfortable and sometimes even just sitting still, it can be hard to breathe. But I would say it's not that different for me for the most part than when I'm not pregnant, other than I'm doing, I guess, some less strenuous things and working a lot harder on really dialing in my nutrition because it's not just about me. And then also, working on self-compassion and, making sure I get enough rest and doing a little bit less of my trying to get through the ingrained hustle agenda that I usually have. And being like, okay, less hustle, more naps, because that's more important.
Yes, absolutely. You've got to take care of yourself. So I think a lot of women enjoy pregnancy because it's a time where it's socially acceptable to eat what you want, let your belly hang out. There isn't the same kind of pressure on us when you're not pregnant. So tell me, have you experienced people treating you differently because of your body changes right now?
I haven't. The only thing that would really apply in that situation is people kind of treating me with, I guess, a little bit more gentleness and caution than normal. So, like, if I'm carrying something, they'll be like, "No, you can't carry that. You're pregnant," or something. Even if it's like a plate. So, like, it's not like I'm trying to haul lumber or something crazy, but people are just like, oh no, or like making sure if there's 5 people in 4 chairs, you're for sure getting a chair type of a thing. But for the most part, I haven't felt that other people have treated me differently, but I definitely have felt that like a comfort in not what I eat, because I guess I don't really worry about what people think about what I eat normally, but definitely my body image. So, for example, I've been to a swimming pool or out on a date night with my husband, and the date night was earlier and it was, of course, socially distant and safe and everything. And I noticed a couple times when I got up to use the restroom, which of course is a lot more frequent occurrence as a pregnant person. But I couldn't help myself wearing a dress that was, body conscious and tight, and like my normal routine is like, okay, you're wearing a dress and heels and you're walking in front of people, pull your stomach in and, suck it in until you get into the stall. And then I'm like, what am I doing? I'm trying to suck in a human being. Like,
you can't do that.
You can't do that. And so it was pretty freeing to just be like, okay, like, I have an excuse for this not to be flat, and it just kind of got me thinking a lot. Like, well, why do I need an excuse not to have a flat stomach ever? Like,
exactly.
Of course, a human is a great reason for it to not be flat, but so is just being alive and, like, having a uterus and enjoying cheesecake. So,
yeah, I love that. I love that. I also think around this time, it's like open season for people to comment on your body when you're pregnant, like even afterwards. And it's not always done in, a negative manner or anything like that. Sometimes it's complimentary, but the fact that there's that focus on your body can make you sort of feel insecure, like, oh, I need to lose the baby weight fast, or, they're noticing my body and they're commenting on it. How do you feel about those types of comments?
Well, I think one thing is just still, following extra safety protocol, especially being pregnant and protecting, myself who's more susceptible, as well as this baby from potential COVID threats. Like, I don't think I see as many people as someone would in their average pregnancy. But yes. I do remember, like, one of the only things I do leaving my house really most of the time is walking my dog a few times a day. And I was walking down the street past someone who was sitting on their porch, and this older gentleman's like, oh, congratulations. You look great. Like, you're not going to really have to lose too much or work too hard after you have the baby to get back to normal, which is nice, like, it's way better than like, holy crap, you have your work cut out for you or something like that. But my first thought was just like, what makes you think that, like, that's what I care about? Yes. Like, this is my first pregnancy and there's so many things in my life that are going to change, that are taking precedence. Like, yeah, I used to be a lingerie model and I would like to still be able to profit off of my blessings if I can later. But my main concerns are, of course, just like, okay, I want a healthy baby. I want to be healthy and, like, be able to move like I could and take care of this baby, and also just what's life going to be like. And I'm sure I'm going to have moments of being self-conscious. And I even just asked a friend who had a baby a few months ago yesterday, like, how has, that all gone for you? And she told me, and it was comforting. But, like, that's maybe 25th on my list of things that I'm worried about. And so for a complete stranger to, like, reassure me, I'm like, he means well. Thank you. I just said thank you. I'm not going to be like, well, this is stupid or like anything in that moment. But it just got me really thinking a lot about societal pressure and, why he would even think that a stranger would want his input.
Exactly. And I feel like when you're pregnant, really, it is like people feel like they have more reason to comment on your body, because, most of the time if someone walks by, you're not going to comment on the way they look. But when you're pregnant, it's sort of like, it's an excuse for people to talk about your body. I always smiled and just took it. But, like, it would drive me nuts when people would tell me, like, in the beginning stages that either my bump was too small or I was too big, and then near the end of your pregnancy, you start hearing the comments like, oh, you look like you're going to pop soon. It's like, yeah, no, duh.
I feel it too.
So switching gears a little bit, you're a model, and you actually had signed with Ford early on in your career. Tell me what it's like and how that has affected your body image.
It's really interesting because first of all, like, you're definitely commoditized. So I've had people, like photographers and people on set right in front of me talking about me like I wasn't there. So like, oh, she's got such a tiny waist, and they're touching me, and I'm like, you can say it to me. I can hear you. Like, this is weird. And then I think the other thing is, since I'm on the older side, I modeled before Instagram was invented and when things were just switching from film to digital and Photoshop was just becoming a thing. And certainly people have been airbrushing photos and doing manipulation to, change people's perceived flaws for decades and decades, even before I was in the industry. But it just became so interesting to me to see my body photoshopped in my face, and to the point where when I was modeling a lot, most of how I saw myself was after I had been changed by somebody else. And so it got kind of confusing sometimes, where I'd be like, are my legs really that long? Are my legs really that thin? And like, I got used to I have a chickenpox scar right on the middle of my forehead, and for a long time, everyone, of course, edits it out. So I forgot that it was there. And then I'd see candid pictures at parties with my friends or something and be like, oh yeah, like I have a scar in the middle of my forehead that everyone removes. And just seeing, like, it's always interesting to be like, okay, well, that person doesn't like that about me because they took it off, or they lengthened it or thinned it or whatever. And it's just kind of like, okay, I see how you feel about me for real, because when you're perfecting my image, those are the changes you've made. I even had a model once who, I've never had plastic surgery and don't judge those who do, but I did have someone once at lunch sit down and tell me all of the changes she would make if she were me. And so she's like, well, you have a cute nose, but I would get this taken in and this, that done. And like, it was a long list. Wow. And I just sat there at lunch with her and I was just like, oh, okay. Thanks. And just kind of moved on. Like, I'm sorry that you've got such a to-do list for me, but I'm not doing any of it.
That's a really interesting perspective, because as a model, you're already closer to that standard of that ideal, right? So right. It must be a pretty competitive industry as well.
Absolutely.
And it's really hard because as women, we're taught to constantly be comparing ourselves with each other instead of finding ways that we can relate to one another. Tell me, what's one thing that you think the modeling industry could do better or could change for the better?
Well, I think it's kind of a movement that's starting right now, and I think that the people are, going on TikTok and showing, their true selves without editing. And the reason why I brought up Instagram is because at the height of my modeling career, like, I have 2 shoots this weekend. I'm still doing stuff, but not as much as I did, back when I was with Ford and, my early 20s. But in those days, there wasn't Instagram, and Facebook was not what it is today. You could post like 1 or 2 pictures at a time or something like that. And so you just weren't seeing that much of each other. And then, of course, people didn't have the same access to being able to edit their own pictures or have other people do it. So everyone else who's not a model was posting what they really looked like. And it was interesting because, like you said, we compare ourselves to so many people, and in the industry, it was my competition for what jobs I was getting. So I was always just looking, like, I wouldn't even compare myself to most quote-unquote normal people or people who weren't models. I would compare myself to the people in the magazines who had the job that I was going for or whatever. And that was always a really unfair comparison because those people don't even look like that. And it scares me for now that there are so many people posting their pictures on social media who aren't models. Maybe they're stay-at-home moms, maybe they're professors, but they're all manipulating their photos, and it becomes, I think, even more difficult to, like, you don't have the reminder of, oh yeah, that's edited or that's a model or whatever. It's like,
good point.
This is what we all look like. And so now that people are going on TikTok and Instagram and like, okay, I have body hairs, I have bumps on my skin or pimples, I have, rolls or stretch marks or wrinkles or whatever. I think that is such a great step in the right direction. And I think that there are a lot of brands and agencies that are casting a lot more diverse models for different campaigns. I think high fashion is still extremely far behind as far as, needing to maintain sample size and the lack of ethnic diversity and all of that you see. But I think for campaigns that are more on the commercial end, which is honestly where more money is in modeling anyway, so I'm glad that these people are getting paid, but they're hiring a more inclusive set of people, whether that's, people who are not 6 feet tall, or women who are not 6 feet tall, or weigh more than 100 pounds, or maybe in a wheelchair, or, different differences.
We need to see more of that.
Exactly. And it's so important for kids to see themselves in different roles, and not that modelers are the biggest role models there are, but if you never see yourself in an ad where you're kind of exemplified as someone that's, beautiful and attractive and like that person makes me want to buy toothpaste, then you don't get any, affirmation that you should be on
normal,
TV,
right?
or you're normal. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So I'm actually working with an organization right now called Live Life Unfiltered. They did the hashtag As She Is campaign a couple of years ago. And we're working on doing something new, which is called hashtag Show Me Unfiltered. And really what we're trying to do is hold commercial advertisers responsible for this over editing that they've been doing. So what we want to see is what they've done in France a few years ago, and they added a disclaimer to any ads or commercial photographs that have women's bodies altered, whether it's to make them thinner or thicker in certain areas. How do you feel about that?
I think that is such a great idea. Like, it's so incredibly important to know that, both from a standpoint of body image, what we're talking about, but also just part of the frustration of shopping for clothing. I'll never forget doing an ad for scrubs, which are loose-fitting and not necessarily meant to be a flattering glamour bit of attire. And
they're meant for comfort.
Exactly, and function, so you can, handle the ER or wherever you work. And I'll never forget, first of all, how many clips they put on the back of you to make it fit right. So you already need to have the right measurements to be there. Then once you're there, they clip it on it so it's basically a custom garment. And then after that, I'll never forget, this woman was like, yeah, they call me the crotch master because I'm an expert at editing crotches. And she, of course, edited other things as well. But, you go to the store and try on scrubs to follow the same example, and you think, okay, it looks like the woman in the picture, and you put it on and it looks like you're a refrigerator or fits terribly. And it's because you don't have somebody there, first of all, pinning it so that it flatters your figure, and then editing every weird wrinkle that happens because you're not a paper doll.
I think, and I don't think a lot of us think about that. That's something in all my studies on body image and the media, I've never even thought about the way that clothes are depicted. I know about the editing and stuff, but even during the actual photo shoot, that they're doing all this stuff to really manipulate the products they're selling. And no wonder so many of us are frustrated when we can't find clothes that fit us like what we see in those ads. So that's wild.
Yeah, you get to the dressing room and look in the mirror and you're like, what the heck's wrong with me? And it's like, absolutely nothing. You just don't have a team that measured you to make sure you were this right size, and then put 4 clamps in the back in the right spots and hemmed this on the set, and,
oh my goodness,
then edited it all. And so even just not looking at your body, but expecting, hey, I'm a size 6. This size 6 scrubs should fit nicely. It's like, well, first of all, size 6 depends on what brand.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
And yeah, just all of the intricacies. So I think a disclaimer is great. Just be like, yeah, by the way, this was altered to fit the model and photoshopped and Or, like, let's all just accept what things really are. You know, do your best to find someone this measurement. I like it when catalogs say, like, model is 5'6" and 130 pounds. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's close to me. It's still, you know, proportions can change, of course, but at least you get an idea.
Yeah, exactly. And see multiple, you know, examples of different body types too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think those sites are fascinating where you can put in a height and weight, and it's like, okay, these
Yeah.
girls are all this, or they'll say, these are 10 people who are size 10, and it's just like, wow, they're all so beautiful and all so different, and you wouldn't guess that they could share clothes, but here we are.
Exactly. Exactly. So I know while you can't predict how you're going to feel about your body once baby is here, how are some ways that you're going to try and prioritize body positivity once baby's here? How are you going to take care of yourself?
Well, I think one thing that I'm going to try to do, and this is something that I've done all through pregnancy as well, and even this was an intentional baby, so I started taking prenatals like 6 months before we conceived, and was really trying to make myself the healthiest container that I could be to build this baby. And I think since I'll hopefully be breastfeeding as well, that just the general self-care of staying healthy is going to be a huge priority. But I think I also need to remember to also put myself first and not just for the baby. So taking time to work out. Fitness is really important to both my husband and I from a health standpoint. He's a physical therapist. And so I know that he will gladly, you know, make sure that I have time to exercise and nap, and he'll help me eat the best I can. And so I think just like from a health standpoint, really prioritizing that will help. And then, yeah, I'm just going to remind myself that it's nobody really should, and I don't think anyone actually does expect me to look any certain way any certain time soon. And if they do, then that's just something that I need to work on and society needs to work on. Because I definitely, even when I see these TikToks and stuff that I'm praising, my gut reaction is often like, whoa, or ew, or, you know, and then I'm just like, okay, that is, you know, bad societal messages that have been ingrained for, you know,
we have to challenge
almost
our own
40
internalized
years.
Thinking. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to be doing a lot of reflection and thinking about that as well, and just reminding myself, you know, what my body just did and how cool that is.
Yeah, you created a freaking human, you know? Like, that's a pretty big accomplishment.
Yeah, you've done too, so any tips you have, feel free to send over.
Just make time for yourself. And really, it's easier said than done, but you sound like you have a supportive partner, so that sounds really amazing. And remember to focus on making the memories, and don't worry about what you look like on camera. If you've got spit up on you and you're wearing yesterday's clothes, it doesn't matter. It's all about just enjoying those moments, even the not so nice ones.
Thank you. I will do my best to do that for sure.
So please tell us where we can find you online.
So I am Mandie Brice everywhere. So Mandie, and then B like basketball, RICE. And if you search that on pretty much any social media platform, or mandiebrice.com, which is about to get a makeover. So yeah, that's exciting. I'm putting more thought into my website's body image than my own these days. So
I love it. Focusing on the non-physical things, right?
Exactly. I still want it to be pretty, but function is most important too.
Absolutely. And lastly, if you could offer one tip to our listeners in regards to body image, what would that be?
I would say to find something that you like about yourself every day in your body image, and it doesn't necessarily need to be external. So I just said, you know, I'm going to try to remember the cool thing that my body just did of making a baby. And, you know, maybe you're not a mom or never want to be or whatever, but your body can probably do cool things, even if it's just digest food. So if it has to be something that small and internal one day, and maybe the next day you like your eyelashes or your, toes or whatever it is, but find something every day and celebrate it, because we're really complicated and cool when you stop to think about it, and it's so easy to take it for granted and not realize all of the things that are happening automatically or automagically, as a friend of mine likes to say. So I would
that's
say,
beautiful.
yeah, celebrating the cool things that are happening in your body just because you're existing.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Mandie, for taking the time to speak with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Once again, thanks for listening to today's episode. Make sure you follow us at Real Happy Daughter, and please share this with someone who needs a little more real in their life.